Welcome to the Building Business Podcast, the show that talks to successful business builders and asks all the questions aspiring entrepreneurs want to know. With your host, Pedro Martins.
And welcome to the first episode of Building Business Podcast. And to kick off the series, we look at entrepreneurs who've started businesses during the COVID-19 lockdown. And in this very first episode, I'm very excited to introduce Sonny and Josh, who are two members of a founding trio, already one business started during lockdown, and are about to commence on the second business. Enjoy.
So today I'm joined by Sonny and Josh from Snackcess, a personalised healthy snack box delivered straight to your door. Sonny, Josh, thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having us, Pedro.
I've got to start off because I think what you're doing is brilliant. Anything that helps improve the health of the nation generally. But starting a business in the midst of everything that's going on is mental, to say the least. So could you give us a quick overview of generally what the business is, when it started and what it's about?
Josh, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So me and Sonny both graduated from university last June. But before we even graduated, we kind of planned out that we wanted to start a business together. Just because we were always interested in business during university and always kept in touch with each other, talking about potentially starting something. So when we couldn't really find jobs because of the pandemic, we decided we'd start something. And it was a few ideas. It started as a coffee and a cafe, but we eventually came to a healthy snack box, which we deliver to employees' doors. So it's a B2B healthy snack service that's really grown over the past few months. And Sonny, do you want to explain a bit more?
Yeah, I guess it's grown from strength to strength. But going back to your original question of why would you start a business in lockdown, seems a little bit counterintuitive as such. But for us, there was only a choice of struggle to find a job, which a lot of our friends were going through, or actually execute on something that we've kind of been talking about for a while. We've been in and around startups at university. We had a little bit of experience, some experience, but obviously never enough as such. But I think Josh and I just kind of put our heads together. Got hold of Josh's mate, Kieran, who Josh has done some things with in the past, who's a very, very practical guy when it comes to setting things up, and really just was a great third addition to the team. And then, got going.
And in terms of how you managed to get it going, so you said you had some experience. What did that look like, and how did you manage to turn it around? Because it seems like it started quite quickly and became very successful very quickly. So it'd be good to understand, just in terms of practicalities of creating the business.
Yeah. Well, I think when I say that we both had experience as such, I guess it's a little bit laughable experience, but it's more the experience of, actually trying to build something from scratch as such. Josh, I'm sure he'll expand in a minute, started quite a successful t-shirt company while he was at university. But I managed to intern at quite a few startups during my 4 years at university. So we learned a lot from that as such, but nothing really that was insanely applicable to what we were doing, other than just getting something going from the ground up and doing what we do best and just trying to learn from it really, and put bringing an idea to life and kind of seeing every step of that is a very rewarding thing. And I think once you do it once, it's kind of you want to do it over and over again. I think both Josh and I had that experience, but I'm sure he'll expand a bit on some of the stuff he did.
Yeah, personally for me, me and Kieran, who's also the co-founder, we started a couple of businesses during university, which kind of gave us our first taste of what it's kind of like to start a business. But it did give us some practical experience about, how to make sales, how to market a bit, especially online. But I think the biggest thing really was the mentality we developed over university. Like me and Sonny were really into podcasts, into listening to people. And even though we didn't have the experience, we kind of had that mentality that we could just learn. Just because of the podcast, listening to the right people, developing that mindset, that growth mindset is something that me, Sonny, and Kieran all have. So even though we didn't really have the experience, we had, the desire and ambition to really create something.
We say a lot as well, don't we, Josh, about the content that we listened to at university, the podcasts, and that was what kind of kept me and Josh in touch. Really, was that shared love for some of this content that was out there. There's big guys in the game at the minute, like Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff, that they put out content all the time. And if you can kind of not just take it as inspiration and actually try and listen to what they're saying in ways that you can build your own things, I think that's where the kind of synergy between Josh and I and his friend Kieran then came from. But that was definitely a shared love that we had at university.
Yeah, Gary V's going great guns, and he's brilliant to listen to. I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and I think you've answered one of my questions, which was where that confidence came from. But it sounds like the the podcasts and everything you listened to gave you that sort of motivation, inspiration, and then you acted upon it, which a lot of people don't.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is acting upon it. I think throughout university, we didn't really act on it that much, but I think we came to the realization that, we have all this information, we've got the mindset, now it's really time just to act. And then you build so much confidence just by doing stuff.
Definitely, and I think another thing as well is like if you looked, Pedro, through like my laptop at the minute, there would probably be about 20 different businesses that I might have either like made mock-ups on Microsoft Word or things from. But it's just the case that I think the what Josh and I have done with Snackcess and Kieran as well is just kind of gone that step further rather than just ideas and kind of just taking it a bit more. But it's not, once you start getting the ball rolling with a lot of these things, it's never as hard as you think it is. It's just a case of finding people, putting something on paper, and then every day kind of expanding on what you're trying to learn and what you're trying to build.
I think that's amazing and really inspirational. And in terms of to your point about getting it started, what were those first steps? I mean, what did you do? How did you begin the journey after you've had the idea? You know what you're going to do. Who do you talk to? Who do you approach? What's next?
First people were my parents, just planning out how it was going to work logistically. Had this idea while we were still finishing our exams, really, and putting it together as much as we could online and as an initial concept with some branding and things like that, speaking to people and stuff. But then it was a case of where are we going to work? And this is once we came out of the lockdown, came back home, we cleared out the space in my garage. Josh came round, so we spent most days in that garage just with a couple of desks, and just trying to get on LinkedIn, get hold of people, try and find how we're going to put this initial sort of box together, which is always one of those questions that gets asked a lot, and I'm sure Josh will expand this further, but we literally did just order cardboard boxes, put them together with a bit of branding, and that was kind of the basis of what we first did.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that we didn't really overthink it. I think a lot of times when you're starting a business, you can think, oh, there's so much to do. You've got to get this, that, the other thing. I think the best thing we did was just kind of get started each day. Like we bought the snacks, we bought the cardboard boxes. We did today. We just slowly crept more and more towards the goal of actually starting something and starting selling to businesses. So I think that was just the biggest thing, just not overthinking, and just getting on with what had to be done.
That was amazing. And were the businesses, because after all, you ordered the boxes and you had everything planned, and you obviously had to fill those boxes with content and with products. Were they receptive to your ideas? Well, in terms of the brands that you put in there, was it as simply as just ordering products direct from the suppliers, or were you having conversations with them in terms of volumes? Or was that too far?
It was a little bit of both. So I think we had a bit of personal knowledge already in the space of like some of the snacks that were out there. Especially, I definitely did for sure. I've been eating a lot of healthier snacks for a long while. It's probably part of having a bit more disposable income while you're at university, spend on those sorts of things. But yeah, we kind of knew of a lot of these brands, but we decided that we'd use a wholesaler first, obviously to try and get the best prices possible. But over time, we started to realize that it was quite beneficial to speak to these brands. A lot of brands were trying to speak to us to get in the box. Josh did a great job of kind of trying to understand what we could do that was of value to these brands, the information we could give them, and what they were kind of looking for, and then really kind of curating the right brands to fit dietary requirements and taste, and kind of mixing and matching all of that up. And so Josh was kind of in charge of a lot of that.
In terms of finding that first customer, how did you go about that, and what does your marketing look like now?
So, go on, Josh. You go.
All right. So at the very start, it was just LinkedIn. Really, we realized how powerful LinkedIn could be. Especially in the B2B space, because you can just connect with so many people, especially for us in the HR space. So we just started connecting with as many HR professionals as possible in the businesses we were trying to target. And most of the time they connected, you could just send them a message. A lot of the time they don't reply, but if you send out 100 and get 10 replies, that's 10 potential customers. So it was just a numbers game for us. And at the very start, it was quite tough because you get quite a lot of rejections. And at the start, the first month, we only did like 5 boxes. And I think that was like Sonny's aunt. So it wasn't even really like a proper sale. But over time, that strategy started working. And as we were starting to build up some sort of trust with HR professionals, they started talking to other HR people about us. So that really led to the growth. And Sonny, you're probably best to explain kind of what happened.
As Josh said, it's kind of the sales. It was definitely a numbers game, and there were some amazing people we spoke to in HR. But a lot of the orders, we're still getting probably orders now from people that we reached out with maybe like 6 months ago. It took them a little bit of time in terms of confidence and things like that. But we just kind of tried to expand our network on LinkedIn. We found a few Slack channels that we originally tried to get involved with, that were kind of with HR people, telling them a bit more about what we do, offering like a discount for these certain Slack channels. And discount is not always the best way to start, purely because you don't want to kind of devalue what you're doing. But sometimes it does get the ball rolling. It gets a bit of sort of attention on social, things that we could post on LinkedIn, and some referrals and things like that. And that was great. And we started getting orders off that. And then I think we being sort of graduates and what we'd set up as such, Kieran was quite tactical and found I think there was an application for the BBC were doing a pilot, or they were doing their sort of what's it called, Josh? CEO Secrets.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. I saw you in those.
Yeah, so that was the BBC article, and so we went up to, that was a great day. We went up to London to film that, not thinking like too much of it. We thought, it'd be a good little article that explained a bit about Snackcess. There were some other graduate startups as well. But I think Dougal that we worked with was brilliant, and he spent the whole day as that article came out really trying to share it. It was all new to us, but I think because of the story and who we were and being graduates, and I guess probably setting up from the garage as well, it really took off that day. And I was sitting there kind of on our HubSpot watching these orders come in, and it was Josh was next to me, and every like 20 seconds was another ping from another person wanting a sample or an order. So that was a bit of a scary time. But a lot of the orders we're getting now are still off the back of that and coming through slowly. So since then, the business has kind of grown steadily. But that month was obviously very, very high period.
Brilliant. So what sort of numbers are we talking about?
Well, that month alone was I think it was about 15,000 in revenue.
Wow,
off the back of that article, which is quite, it's very, it's good to achieve that, especially for sort of 4 or 5 months of actually doing what you're doing. It flattened off a little bit the following months, but still we're kind of at a stable place now that, this month alone, there's potentially another 1,000 boxes going out the door. Next month's looking like even more so. And it's really grown into this business that we've managed to outsource the logistics side. So someone does the picking and packing for us. And the logistics side of it, which has been a very big learning experience to kind of set up and stuff. We've been fortunate to have a really good partner for that. And that's just helped us to really focus in on some of the processes of Snackcess, how we can get more orders going through, and also gives us time to expand our initial mission a bit more. Like Josh said at the start, we were both very, very passionate guys about health and well-being. And our mission is really to make healthy living really as easy and accessible to as many people as possible.
After kind of over the last few months, we've been working on a new product to try and fulfill that mission a tiny bit more, to really make healthy living easy and affordable for everyone, which has led us to, alongside Snackcess, to develop a new service called Well Easy, which we're developing right now and about to launch in the next couple of weeks, which is an expansion on top of Snackcess, which means that we sell more than just the snacks. It's all non-perishable goods, so like the food, the drinks, the beauty products, the bath and body products, and we make that available for prices up to 50% off RRP. So, the biggest concern for people with healthy living is how expensive it is. But through our membership model, we can offer really big discounts to our members. But on top of that, for every membership, we're giving away a free one to a low-income family or family in need, so that everyone has the chance to live healthy, and it's not just for people who can afford it.
That's a lovely idea. How do you manage to negotiate such a huge discount, or offer such a huge discount?
So with this one, we're working directly with the brands so that we can get the best prices. And our idea isn't, of course, the business is there to make profit, but our idea isn't to make profit off the sale of the goods. So unlike traditional retailers who'll charge a huge markup, like 50%, on top of what they buy it for, we cut that out more or less, so that people are literally getting the price that we pay for. And then through the membership, which is going to be £50 for the year, that's where we try and make our profit. And we kind of did think of the idea before we started Snackcess, but we didn't think we could pull it off. But we've gained a lot of confidence from Snackcess, which has made us think that we can definitely pull this off if we, it's going to be hard, but we can definitely do it.
Yeah, please do. It's funny because I actually emailed Thrive Market and said, when are you going to open a UK-based offering?
You have to sign up for Well Easy then, and then you can...
I'm already there. I'm committed. That's it. I'm there. Lovely. I mean, that's amazing. I think actually your point is well made, and I admire your mission in terms of bringing health to everybody, because I think that's a problem. It can be quite expensive to be healthy. It's much cheaper to go to McDonald's and buy a meal than it is to actually think about what am I going to spend, how am I going to look after myself, and how can I afford to do that. And if you're offering 15% off, that's going to open up the doors to a huge part of the population who don't currently have access to healthy snacks, healthy food.
And as well as that, on the converse as well, there's so many brands out there as well, Pedro, that are really trying to get on board with. They've got very similar missions, and we've seen a lot of them. But just at this moment in time, the way the food system is positioned makes it really hard for any challenger healthy brand to position itself in a market where the price is shown to be so much more significant than any alternative. And the more we can kind of introduce solutions like this and ideas like this, we can really back some of those challenger brands to showcase that no, they're not trying to deliberately charge a higher price. They're very healthy. They're very natural. They have a very big mission, and we can start to really kind of change and make healthy living really as easy as possible.
I love it. And then, actually, one other question that you mentioned. You talked about logistics, and you've sort of outsourced that.
Yeah.
Can you share who you've outsourced that to?
So that was on the back of the BBC coverage we had. We had a very nice guy reach out to us, who was super friendly. Initially, just wanted to chat, find out sort of how we're going with everything, and was talking about sort of bringing Snackcess over to where he is then. And it wasn't something at the time that we were kind of like, oh, do we do now? Do we do down the line? So we debated it for a little while, but after speaking with him for a while, it made a lot of sense to go to him. And Ian is the guy about source. So he's just been brilliant ever since. He's just been, he's really supportive of small businesses. He understands that people trying to set up businesses like Snackcess, it gets to a point where you can't do the sales you want to do because obviously you're spending so much time focusing on the picking and packing side. So he operates from Swindon, and he's welcomed us openly into the two warehouses he has there. He manages all of the orders for us, and he advises us a lot on how we scale and how we grow operations. But that's been a really, really significant step for us, and it will also help us going forwards massively with Well Easy, because Ian is fully on board for sort of the mission we have, and wants to support us as much as he can for that. So it's a great partner that we found. So we're very thankful for him.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's important to finding the right partners. Do you want to give a shout out to his company at all?
Yeah, Ian's company is Retail Imports Limited in Swindon. So that's his main company. But as I say, he has a lot of space to work with smaller businesses to support them. So there's a few different businesses he supports at this moment in time. But we've been fortunate enough that he's shown an interest in us. I think being young is a big thing as well. We need that support.
Absolutely.
He's taught us so much about logistics, and it should really help us going forward.
Brilliant. And then I've only got a few more questions, but one was, and I think you probably sort of answered them, but it's what are the major challenges that you encountered and that you overcame from starting the business, and then any learnings you have from starting that business?
Ooh, loads, I reckon.
Yeah.
Loads, absolutely loads. Josh, you're first.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge probably was the logistics for a large part of it, because it just takes up so much time. So trying to sort that out earlier probably would have been a smart move. But to be honest, like with all the mistakes, they're all a part of the learning process, and they're actually the funnest part when you look back at all the mistakes you made. And the main thing is just learning from them. And one of the key things that me and Sonny put in place has been to make sure at the end of days we've been writing down learnings that we've made. Just because we, as young founders, we make so many mistakes the whole time. And a part of our culture is to allow for their mistakes, but as long as we're learning from them, there has been plenty of them.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to, it sounds a bit very simplistic, but when you're doing well and things are going well, you don't take the time to reflect on why it went well. But making mistakes and kind of learning to deal with failures is the best kind of motivation to sit down and actually think why this happened and why we can improve in the future. And as you said, we made a bunch of them at the start, all different ones. Logistically, it was being a massive one, trying to promise and over-deliver on orders when we might have not been able to get out the door on time, waiting on supplies of boxes, etc. So there's been a huge amount of mistakes on our part as such, but it's just part of being young and ambitious and being an entrepreneur. And we do, one thing we have been kind of credited for, which we didn't realize, but like as a team, we move quite fast. And I think when you're that eager and you move quite fast with things, it does obviously you make a lot of mistakes. So we didn't see ourselves moving fast, but sometimes you do have to be aware of what you're doing, how fast you're moving, putting those things in check. But it's more a case of just keep going with where you see the thing going, and mistakes will happen, but you learn to kind of deal with them and not make them in the future.
I think that's great advice, and I can tell you that's true of any business of any age and of any entrepreneur of any age. So I think the wisdom that you've talked about is that making sure you pay attention to it and you take notes and you take stock of that and then learn from that. So I think that's fantastic. And I've got a quick fire round, but you don't need to rush through it. But it's just a few questions. So the first one is: do you guys have a morning routine?
Yeah, we do. We've probably slightly different ones. Josh is probably a little bit more regimented than mine. Mine's a lot of wake up in the morning quite early, as early as I can be, 6:15ish. I'll get up,
Wow.
I'll read with a coffee, then I'll go on LinkedIn, check some stuff on LinkedIn, and kind of get ready for the day ahead and probably walk, especially now we're working remotely. But Josh's is probably a bit more regimented than that.
Yeah, I've kind of worked on mine over like the last 5 years. So normally I wake up around the same time, go and make a coffee, do some stretching, read for a bit. Then I do 20 minutes of meditation every morning.
Nice.
I've recently just got the Headspace app, which I really, really like, to be honest. Because before I was just doing it by myself, but I found using the app actually really, really useful. Then after that, I'll go for the walk like Sonny. But I've kind of trimmed it down over the years just to be really effective. And now running a business, there's so much stuff to do, so it's just being as effective as possible in the morning. But a lot of the learnings happen in the morning as well, which is always nice.
Absolutely. And I think the learning is that a lot of entrepreneurs or successful entrepreneurs start their day in a very similar way to you both. So actually, I think it's getting up early and stretching, exercising, and a bit of reading to get it
Yeah.
going. On the Headspace app, I can also recommend Sam Harris's app, which is
I have tried that one out. He's very, very good.
he's brilliant. But yeah, Headspace is a great app. And do you have a similar sort of evening routine as well, or does that vary?
I think it varies. A lot of evenings now, especially, we work quite late. Some evenings 9, half 9 as such. We currently have an intern that works out in Canada, so we obviously have to stay because it's slightly different hours for them. So we do stay up late working on that sort of stuff. But I think Josh and I have only just kind of established that the evening is the time that we want to kind of do more tasks, so we can shut off a bit, maybe listen to a podcast while we're doing some stuff. The more sort of admin type tasks that don't take as much of a thinking stress. So you can kind of shut off that way. But usually, to me, it's 9 o'clock finish, relax for a little bit, might watch some YouTube and stuff, or read if I've got the energy to read, and then it'll be bed about 10:30, between 10:30 and 11.
For me, it's fairly similar. Like I think I normally finish about 9:30. I'll stick my blue light blocking glasses on, and then I'll do some journaling, sit down with my family, come up, read, and then go to bed. I go to bed 10:30 every day, basically every day.
Yeah, that's very similar to me actually. I use Gamma Ray blue light blocking glasses, which is pretty good. I don't know what brand you use.
I'm actually looking to buy new ones. What brand have you got?
Gamma Ray. They've been
Ray.
very good actually. Yeah,
I've heard of them.
you only have a couple of questions. Well, 3 more questions, and I promise I'll let you go.
Yeah.
But it's the first one is: what message would you give to a sort of aspiring entrepreneur out there, or entrepreneurs just starting up?
I would always tell people, and it's a very similar one that I probably said before, but the key takeaway from everything we've done and everything that I've sort of learned is that, like, if you have an idea, it's not a case of you don't need to overnight create it into this big thing. It never works like that. It's just a case of every single day thinking, what is one little thing I can do today that just pushes that idea on to make it more real, make it more believable to yourself. And once you start getting that motion, like every single day will be a different task. You'll be building it more and more, and you'll start to get in the swing of like actually building something. And you won't notice you're building it, but it starts to happen. Whether that's getting people on board with the mission you're trying to do, whether that's even knocking up a landing page, where there's so many tools to do that now. Just do something every day that kind of brings it to life a bit more. And it is a snowball effect. Sounds cliche to say, but that is definitely the biggest lesson I would give to anyone.
And yeah, probably for me, it's a bit broader. Probably widens out more to more than just entrepreneurs, but it's self-awareness. I think that's one of the big traits that me and Sonny have developed really well. It's just being self-aware about what you're good at, what you're bad at, what you like, what you dislike. Especially in a time with social media, and there's a lot of stuff that's so much information out there. Just really kind of tapping into what's inside and realizing the type of person that you are. I think it's probably a key skill to have in the modern day working environment and life environment.
That's really great advice from both of you. I love those. And is there a message that you'd like to give to the world at large? It doesn't have to be related to business or commercials, or could do, but it's just a message to put out there.
I would probably say prioritize health now more than ever. Health, not just because of our businesses, but for us, health's the base of every happy life for us. So just putting that first, whether that's sleep, eating right, exercising, even just doing small bits to improve that each day is probably the most important thing for people right now.
Yeah, and I would say as a personal thing for me is be an optimist when you can. Try, I often get told that there are times not to be optimistic about things, but being optimistic doesn't mean you're kind of overlooking things. You're very aware of situations that go on. You're very aware of pandemics that come and force you to be in lockdown for a long while. But being optimistic is kind of the difference between seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. And I think what me and Josh both see is that, we're very fortunate with the support we've got around us, with our parents and family supporting us while we do this. And we're grateful for that every day. But at the same time, we don't look at the pandemic and a lockdown. We're looking at, like, once this comes out and when we come out of this lockdown, are we going to have a big business that we built and things like you've got to look to the future and see that light. And for a lot of people, I think you've got to really try and encourage yourself to do that.
The final thing I'm going to ask you is just a bit of fun. Is you'd like to tell the listeners a little known fact about yourselves?
A little known fact.
I think for me, something I've been getting into recently is collecting sports cards. I know it's a bit like Gary Vee kind of thing, but he got me into it the past year. And I love football, so I've just been collecting a bunch of them, and I've been having a lot of fun doing it.
I did think you said collecting sports cars. I thought the business must be doing very well.
Cards. No, not a bit cheaper.
I think for me, it's a little known fact. I feel like my life is a little bit boring at the minute just because we're in lockdown so much. But definitely, like, a little known fact for me is 100% is the reading in the books that I try and read in the mornings. Like, it's kind of the key to. I say this to Josh a lot. I'm a big believer in, like, putting yourself in your own little world sometimes, and convincing yourself that you can do things that maybe others can't or whatever. When in reality, everyone could do the things they want to do as much if they want to try at it. But convincing yourself and making yourself feel a little bit different in that way, and reading things that really kind of inspire you is just a great thing. So I definitely think it's something, I guess, that is a little fact about myself that I spend a lot of time reading.
Is there any books that you'd recommend just on that note? So any other tools that you think that you'd recommend?
There's especially just in a general sense. Like one of the latest ones I've read is Atomic Habit by James Clear.
Brilliant! Yeah, I love James Clear. Great email as well.
Yeah, it just turns itself. Like, it's not, it's just really, really easy book to read. I've been reading a lot of stuff lately on sort of like culture and like business related books, but definitely Atomic Habits is useful. And for sort of, definitely for any young guys, especially out there that are kind of looking for a bit more of like a to the point book. 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson is definitely one of the best books I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, and I think for me, it'd be Boundless by Ben Greenfield, just because I've been getting really into health over the last few years, and that's like the main. Great. Have you read it yourself?
Great. Yeah, I've got a copy on my bedside table. Actually, I just finished it.
Yeah, it's just got so much information, which is so useful. So it's been my favorite.
Yeah, a biohacker, Pedro.
Yeah, I dabble with a bit of everything, to be honest. It's funny, actually. You're very similar. We're all very similar, except you're massively younger than me, annoyingly. And because I like you, I digest probably an autobiography of an entrepreneur a week, if not more. And then health is number one for me. So I teach martial arts. I've always done health. And Ben Greenfield, I've been listening to his podcasts since he first started.
Yeah.
So yeah, but everything you said massively resonates. I could easily talk. I know you've got to go, but I could easily have talked to you for another 2 hours on all these. But we'll have to. But we'll have to get you back on the podcast when you launch Well Easy.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great.
Give you a membership when it's launched this month. We'll be coming to you, Pedro, for a membership.
I'll sign up straight away. Yeah. So yeah, definitely email me. Where can people hear more about you or find out about you, or either of these brands actually that you've talked about?
I think, definitely on social media, Sonny Drinkwater on LinkedIn or Sonny Drinkwater on Instagram, but at the same time, all of our socials, Snackcess, Well Easy UK is the Instagram handle for Well Easy. And I think, Josh, you're quite similar, aren't you?
Yes. Just my name is the Instagram and LinkedIn handles. And yeah, Snackcess for our healthy snack business, and Well Easy UK for this new service that we'll be launching within the next couple of weeks.
Lovely. Josh, Sonny, thank you very much for a very entertaining interview, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
No worries, Pedro. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening. And for all show notes, visit www.buildingbusinesspodcast.co.uk. See you next week.